the game already for astounding Medivh play, is also the first game's MVP.
A lot of damage, great leyline seals, no complaints. LLK, great setups for his entire team. Good job, well-deserved first MVP. The combo's not broken yet. The A-Team could still bring this back, but this looks like it's definitely going to be their biggest challenge yet, as BTG are taking them to Sky Temple.
All right, Sky Temple it is. This time it is beyond the game, choosing the battleground. And this is already a little bit of a different tone, you know, a 3-lane map, much wide open, more wide open than the previous one. And let's see if they can play the macro game pretty well, because A-Team showed us yesterday that they can do that very well themselves, you know. They were always one step ahead of their opponents, especially Team Nut and RPG. Were taking some crippling blows yesterday on that map against them, because they know how to disengage, they know how to kite as well when established a lead, when they have established a lead. The one thing I do wanted to highlight as well is that on those 2-lane maps like BOE that we saw before, same goes for Braxis, for example, the draft is the most important thing. And I really think that the draft that A-Team had was not bad by any means, but it was just heavily countered by Beyond the Game. So maybe if they pay more attention to what actually works against Beyond the Game as well, rather than focusing on their battle plan regardless of what their opponents draft, they could really step it up.
Completely agree. I think that would be absolutely... It would be better if they could step up the drafting, but once again, that's obviously one of the most difficult bits.
Absolutely
as we are in draft number 2, on Sky Temple, so the possibility of an Illidan starts to come to mind. It's a very large map. The hunt immediately becomes a little bit more viable, and this is what the A-Team tried to do at least a little bit yesterday.
Yeah, the Illidan, why not? You know, we saw 2 different styles even coming in from the A-Team. We saw the team fight-oriented Metamorphosis Illidan, and we saw the classic split pushing global pressure Illidan with the Hunt, right? And both variants were pretty successful yesterday against the respective opponents. So the question is now, Tetcher, Illidan worked well yesterday, that we can all agree upon on, but is it going to work again against Beyond the Game, who are definitely on their tippy toes, who have this, you know, Illidan in their back of their minds when playing against that team?
Let's start off with the Urel, stealing that away from 3 as they chose to ban Diablo instead. Don't need to ban the Medivh. The Medivh is the more rare pick. The Diablo is the more common pick. So banning that, they remove one of those good combos, and then picking up the Urel, they take away 3's best hero. They give Bruiser or Jada, as we have seen, something to work with.
Yeah, and if you guys, or if we thought that, you know, Kaitu's a Diablo main, he doesn't really shine on any other warriors, then we were proven dead wrong yesterday when he, you know, fell back on the Turiel, looked astounding, looked really well. The Muradin gave him a couple of wins as well. So Kaitu with that Diablo bane, he's still going to be in a fine position. He even played the Johanna and looked very good in it.
That he did. He has shown versatility. And also the Stitches. We can't forget about that. The Shish Kebab Stitches to win a game on Battlefield. It was really quite insane.
That it was against Sergeant Hammer, wasn't it? When with the Shish Kebab and the longer hook duration, once it pierces through the initial target, it can actually catch the hammer on the way back. Which is pretty insane.
It was really cool. Worked out. But now then, we do have a Deckard Cain coming in for St. Ukov here this time, and a very early Muradin once again, hiding all of their damage this time. But still, a no cleanse, burst vulnerable support. This is just what supports are these days. The question is, have they given themselves the versatility to play around that? We see the ban phase, they remove a mobile assassin in the form of the Junkrat.
So it doesn't have to necessarily happen on this map right now, but I just wanted to highlight the threat, the imminent threat of an LLK Alarak. So I think cleansing supports could be quite crucial to observe for the A-Team. And if they end up picking an Alexstrasza, a Deckard Cain so early in those drafts, well, no, Sky Temple is not necessarily the standard, you know, Alarak battleground. That is more like a Curse Hollow, maybe, like a Braxis holdout, but it is there. And LLK is one of the most deadly, flexible assassins we have in the league. He's probably going to play Jaina or Hanzo this time around, though. So just wanted to let you guys know that LLK in the region is very feared and very well known for his Alarak plays.
Yeah, like I agree. The Alarak is a scary option here, but we have Dahaka instead this time. So unless we're going to run unless we're going to run a solo tank Dahaka, the Alarak is unfortunately out of the question. It is possible on other maps like Oh no, for Sky's banned and Battlefield's already gone, so a lot of the maps it's good on are already removed,
Yeah.
so I guess it's down to Tomb as we see Reyna and Illidan. The combo we were talking about yesterday, literally last game. The heroes who could benefit from the speed boost of Reyna. Guess who it is? It's Illidan. But they do have very little burst follow-up to a hunt, so I'm very much feeling this to be a metamorphosis, but that makes that a lot harder. Very sensibly, BTG pick up the Arthas.
And I love the way Beyond the Game has actually drafted this, right? With a lot of warriors, or one of the main warriors actually, being banned out, the Diablo, and the Muradin being picked early by their opponents, there was no need for them to actually pick their main tank early on. And we told you guys that they are aware of the Illidan. It was played multiple times yesterday, so they realized if we pick our warrior early on, we might actually weaken ourselves against an Illidan, right? But the way they drafted it, waiting for that last pick to be the main tank, they could pick up the Arthas, which is one of the most formidable counters to the Illidan. So well anticipated and well drafted by Beyond the Game all across the board.
So yeah, this is interesting. If they go for a Metamorphosis style now, then suddenly Illidan is vulnerable because he's going to be fighting for longer periods of time into an Arthas. That's bad news. Also, there's a huge damage over time from Dahaka and even the Jaina.
Yeah.
If he goes for a hunt, potential for ice blocks from Malfurion and Jaina, and where's the follow-up damage? Irel can't do it. Reyna can, but that requires him to run through Arthas most likely. I don't know what this is to set up other than perhaps #play the map and just don't fight if you can avoid it.
Yeah, so Illidan is basically acting like as a counter global, I guess, against the Dahaka, you know, with the Hunt being able to maybe join his teammates in the nick of time as well. But I fully agree with you, Tetra. I think what I'm really most scared of for the A-Team, right, with that draft they chose, is the damage. Illidan could heavily get crippled heavily by the Jaina slows, by the Arthas slows as well, and Reyna all by himself. While he's great in his new form, I think he needs a little bit of extra punch from another ranged assassin next to him. So I'm not sure if they can bust it out, if they can pull it off, but we're ready to see and witness game number 2 here in Sky Temple, ladies and gentlemen. Can Beyond the Game extend their lead, or will their opponents strike back? 619 is still on the Arthas, LK is playing the Dahaka, Druid on Malfurion again, dancing on the Hanzo, and 3 on Jaina.
And on the right, it is going to be the A-Team, with Jaina on Yrel, Olele on Reyna, Bruiser on Illidan, Saint Okov on the Decad Kayn, and Kaitu once again bringing out the Muradin. We are, of course, going to see that ace in the hole coming in for Reyna, as I believe that is Immolation coming in for Illidan. So PvE style.
Yeah, PvE style, a little bit of extra AoE damage as well. Of course, it also helps Illidan when it comes to dealing with those Guardians on the Temple, right? If he wants to hold this position a little bit longer all by himself, the AoE damage is going to be very, very useful here. And yesterday, you know, we saw teams like RPG, you know, Team Nut, we saw them struggle against that Illidan. And even Arthas was picked. While I don't think it was picked as smartly as it was here, with that last pick waiting for the Illidan to come out first by Beyond the Game, it wasn't actually able to do much against the Illidan, because the Hunt, it always allows Illidan to dive on a target that's relatively far away from the Arthas. Nice catch. Got him here by LLK.
Not ideal for Jaina, but he is Yrel, aka Sustain is the name of the game, and Yrel will play that game very well and heal up very quickly. They even grab the globe, Bruiser helping out here. And this double solo lane's very interesting. We see the immediate reaction for the 4-man Merc camp kill, because that's going to make it happen very quickly. And then they can maybe react and invade their opponents. Illidan is going to start on the Bruiser camp.
Yeah, Illidan is starting the Bruisers right now. With that Immolation, of course, he's going to have a little bit of an easier time clearing it faster. But as you said, the moment the Illidan was spotted in the top lane, the moment Dahaka gave the signal, you know what, I'm facing 2 people here, take the bottom half of the map for me, will ya? That's exactly what they did. They invaded even the other half, like the other Siege Giant camps, so the A-Team has pulled back for now. They realize, you know what, if we fully commit to this, I don't think we're going to be in that good of a spot. We also need to defend this bottom lane a little bit in the first place as well.
Double root on Olele. Taps the fountain, actually, very early. So they begin burning down the mercenary camp. Need to dodge those rocks. Only one of them actually attacking the structures. The other one is a slight tick too far away. Reyna actually knocking them both back now. So neither will be attacking the structures. One tower already down. The A-Team, they tapped their own mercenaries. It looks like Decad thinking about starting that, but realizes he just can't race that alone. In the meantime, very late Merc camp start by BTG, and as such, this camp at the top lane it's going to get so much value. Great drag, but none enough to actually get anything done. This will be the second tower falling.
Yeah, the drag was basically aimed to prevent Illidan from auto-attacking, which is so dangerous, right? We saw Illidan end his superior structure damage if left unattended yesterday, but with Bruiser actually going all the way deep, protected by the spell damage reduction, of course, with you know, the mercenaries still intact, he was able to cause a little bit of a distraction there. And ultimately, if you look at it, they were trading structural advantage, or structural damage, I should say, evenly. Top lane, a little bit damage for the A-team. Bottom lane, heavily crippled, though, against them.
But with this mercenary camp counter-pushing, what's the response to this? Illidan pieces out. He goes to mid lane, is going to probably try and double-soak this. It's going to be Yrel and Reyna burning this down. Not well known for their AoE. Reyna only really with 2 AoE abilities, his Q and his trait, which is not great for the super fast wave player of mercenaries. In fact, Bruiser is forced to come back up here. Arthas immediately turns on his E. Camp is cleared, and the tower will survive here.
Yeah, the tower will survive, which is very useful when it comes to giving up the top temple for a little bit. You know, every structure HP matters, and it looks like Beyond the Game is actually happy to give this up for at least a little bit. Arthas was running low a little bit on mana, so he had to use Malthuan's trait and his own Frostmourne Hungers a little bit to bring him back in good shape in that regard. Now Dancing is in trouble, gets knocked back by the Yrel, can't jump over the wall anymore.
Illidan goes very deep. He's got evasion on, but it expires. He can't chase down Dancing. A beautiful drag by LLK, shutting down that overly aggressive play from Bruiser. And Bruiser, I think he's starting to panic here. That was not the kind of play that we saw him pull off yesterday.
It was so close, though, right? Well, I agree with you, Tetra. I think it was a reckless move by any means. And even if he had gone the Hanzo, he would have probably died in the process as well. But it was so well played by Hanzo and Malthuan, most importantly. Now, speaking of people in trouble, 619, he doesn't have the fancy escape tools that other warriors have, and he ends up falling as well. A 1-1 trade ultimately.
Jaina has to back up into dangerous territory just to get these potions from St. Urkov here. Nice dive by Kaitu and Olele picking up that kill. And finally, even with St. Urkov looking super low in terms of mana, they're able to take some control and will probably get this top temple. In the meantime, Bruiser currently 1v1. Another superb drag. Here comes the Treant as well, and Bruiser is out of there.
Yeah, Bruiser is in no condition to continue this team fight. And even Murden might be in some trouble, actually, because Malthuan Druid is still nearby. Reyna reinforcing, though, as well. And the last couple of shots, they go over to the A-team. A much better engagement, a much better team fighting behavior as well in that early game compared to game 1.
Someone check that Primal Zerg's tongue for magnets, because he is just hitting every single drag. Very solid job by LLK right now, putting on so much pressure to the Illidan, whose whole point is to run free and keep auto-attacking and be hard to lock down. And LLK is just hitting every single skill shot.
Yeah, if you've ever played a skill shot dependent hero like the Haka, for example, on that drag against Illidan, then you know how annoying and difficult it can sometimes be to really lock down that Illidan, right? So yeah, kudos to him. Really good accuracy, as you said. But now with the mercenaries being unleashed once again in favor of Beyond the Game, let's see how aggressive they want to play this. Uh-oh, 619 is already in there, spotted by Bruiser and the Illidan, and Kaitu is here as well to keep the tunnel shut for now.
Now there's a team to grab their own Siege Giants, which is going to allow them to move bot and start cleaning out their opponents as well, and maybe get a little bit of counter pressure. That tower still somehow survives. That was a lot of damage it took here. As we see Illidan rotating up to the top lane, he's going to lane once again against the Haka. His own mercenary camp is available. Good route. Reyna has the self-heal, drops the armor. 60 armor acquired here as he begins diving forward, thanks to the help of Yrel with that Avenging Wrath, another 35 being added here.
Yeah, that is one tanky Reyna. I fully agree with you. Now, the Emerald was used as well. Less healing to Druid and Dancing, but I also have to credit Beyond the Game for dealing with that Murden so efficiently. They shut him down so hard when he was going for that cheeky flank. And Bruiser actually doesn't seem to be able to put up a fight against the Dahaka, right? He is out-sustaining and out-damaging the Illidan up to this point. LLK is quite the beast.
He really, really is. But now we see Yrel rotating up to top lane. This is going to give Illidan, of course, time to rotate to the Merc camp. And this is the plan. Grab Merc camp before the objective is really being fought over. He's got 29 seconds. Can begin burning that down, as level 10 is, however, hit by BTG. BTG immediately responds by going for their own Bruiser camp, because they know this is exactly what the A-team will be doing. The A-team, however, they don't have anything else to gain from this. They can't really soak any more lanes than they already are. They're still going to hit level 10, quite close to their opponents. They're going to grab the camp slower than their opponents, which is not ideal.
It's actually fairly similar in terms of capture timing, but of course they...
Tornado.
The Lornado again, and the Hunt as well, so the Illidan will be able to follow the Dehaka at least in quite some time. We see the Hyperion by Raynor as well, valuing the AoE damage and zoning potential it has over the extra single target burst that the Banshee would provide. Now, they need to wait for Jaina. Jaina is still taking care of the middle lane. He hasn't really joined the fight up to this point, and Illidan seeks the time winner to engage onto dancing.
Tranquility used immediately. Jaina being pulled back on that Yrel, trying to get out of danger. The good isolation onto Raynor, but he's still able to escape. The Lornado massively helping out here as Bruiser being forced back. Jaina dropping low. 619 wrap reference time, but here is the other defender keeping him alive, and now it's all about Kaitu. Kaitu finally finished off the armor from Jaina, not enough to help him out here. And that Yrel not helping out Muradin enough. It's going to be a 1-for-0 in the trade.
Yeah, it was a good trade. It was very back and forth. You know, we had some early pressure built up onto Hanzo and dancing. Had to pull back, and that was the beauty, you know, of them still having the healing fountain available. If you look at the bottom lane and how much it had been shattered before, the A-Team was in no condition to just fall back and heal up themselves. They are now going to have to give over this objective altogether. In the meantime, you can see Illidan in desperate need to really clear this minion wave and mercenaries alike. Otherwise, that top fort is going to take some significant damage as well, and that might actually be 2 forts in relative quick succession. Thatcher, the middle fort, not looking healthy anymore.
This is going to be with Illidan just once again still soaking any XP he can, keeping his team in this. It's still technically 2 forts to 2. They are currently in the most technical term even, but technicalities do not matter when you meet Frostmourne and Arrows, as we do see mid fort going down. Structure lead is taken by BTG.
And it's going to be so hard for Illidan, by the way, to really find an opening in that defense put up by Beyond the Game, right? We have that Arthas, so you can't even go in there from, you know, the direct front line. You're going to have to find an opening in the back, in the flanks, but then there's Jaina with that water elemental. It's like a mini Arthas, right? It slows you down all the time. It makes you so much more vulnerable to that Hanzo combo, for example. And speaking of Hanzo, finally, we're no longer seeing all these Dragon Strike shenanigans. We're basically seeing beautiful Dragon's Era. A 4-man stun in that previous team fight was really, you know, laying the foundation for Beyond the Game to collapse on their opponents.
Bruiser has reinforcements. Once again, Jaina rotates up. They're going to look for a locate here. They have the CC to interrupt him if he tries to brush Stalker out. They just need to time it right. Illidan putting on the pressure with the essence used. There's the isolation. And they'll be happy with that. They will absolutely be happy with that. That's a big cooldown to burn.
Yeah, it's quite a significant cooldown indeed, and that bought a little bit of time though on...
Muradin will find this, but can they react? The Haka's tunneling down. Illidan's on the way. Raynor is needed for this. In comes Kaitu. Avatar drops very early. Full scan. Good hunt. Onto 3 in the backline. They're holding through it. The Lornado's good, but it was borrowed by the Haka, keeping him alive. Good armor on Kaitu, keeping him alive, but he finally drops down. The Hyperion is dropping so much siege, but even the absorption. Down goes Arthas. I'm going to take back what I was about to say. They've managed to hold the line, and Bruiser, within an inch of his life, holds the front line, and they take the boss.
And you mentioned that Hyperion by good old Jamie. Everybody was slowed by the Decker Kane cube here. We're going to take another look at that in the replay here. Actually, 619 getting stunned by the boss and taking so much damage there as well. Here comes Druid a little bit close, and now Dehaka from the back. That was a lovely Lornado, slightly off angle, but here we have Jada. Just 35 extra armor, keeps Kaitu alive for like 1 more slam, and that's still a little bit of extra slows, a little bit of extra damage as the Hyperion just murders the backline. Icebox has to be used so early, and it was all about killing off Arthas after that, as Illidan just zoned out all 3 backline heroes, and that's exactly what he's for. This is probably the biggest momentum swing we've had in this series up to this point. A-Team was not only, you know, able to get a massive chunk of experience back to steal the boss as well, but they maintain control over 2 temples right now, balancing out the structure score as, you know, completely entirely. Look at that. So much damage being dealt here, and only now is Beyond the Game able to regain control over that top lane. But as you said, the Hyperion and the extra damage from Ace in the hole when targets are slowed or stunned, it was massive. The Lornado completely zoning out the backline as well. Hanzo had to jump over the wall and was out of position to even deliver damage. This is the potential for the comeback. The A-Team with the clutch fights. They're going to hit 16 first, cleaning out the lanes, grabbing experience. They still lost top temple. That's still all of their forts down, but it's all forts for all forts. Boss was cleaned up very quickly, but it's all about that XP that the boss gave them and the XP the kills gave them. And LLK on that Dahaka, and that moment he was a little bit too reckless. He tried to bait more damage onto him. He thought he could counter heal it with his Essence, the healing from Alfurion as well, but his Burrow, in my opinion, came a little late there. So a little bit of mistakes, but without a doubt, that was such a big team fight for the A-Team to win. Now Giddy Up, ready for Jimmy, and we also see a very interesting 16 talent choice here, actually. Not going for the additional self-healing from Paint Them Red, but going for the improved Give Him Some Pepper.
Extra damage, always wonderful here, and kind of required, as we've already discussed here, to follow up on the hunt. That is aggressive. 35 armor, though, being applied by Jaina. They're going to be able to grab the towers, and now it's just all about leaving. It was simply a tower and leave. That was the strat here. Good stun. Stormbolt, as you can see, is stacked to the piercing Stormbolt level, as the rest of them pull back.
Yeah, and that Bounty Hunter on Raynor is so incredibly useful against heroes like Arthas, who struggle to really put him under pressure, right? The extra percentage damage, the extra armor Raynor gets as well. 619, speaking of Arthas, he's going to take some heavy damage.
Hunt on dancing, he gets immediately Nature's Cured as Bruiser doesn't even stick to him. He instead turns around onto Druid. In the meantime, the Lord Nado, great disengage onto Arthas, the last of the turn onto LLK, while Kaito is doing a great job in the backline, but a lovely Dragon Arrow really punishes Olele, who's now starting to turn onto 619 though as he's sustaining through it. Bruiser in serious trouble. He needs a better target than Arthas to burn down, as it's Yarel and Raynor chasing Arthas. Where's the healing? Malfurion drops it, the Heraldric Cube gets the slow. Can they do it? Bruiser dives in and they pick up the Arthas. Kaito continuing to dive deep, needs to be careful of the drag of LLK, and is able to back off.
And Tetcher, do you see the health bar of Olele on that Raynor? It's completely full. Nobody is able to deal with the Raynor. And if you don't take care of the Jamie up to this point in the late game with that Bounty Hunter online, he is going to chip down Arthas like there was no tomorrow. And you could really see how much tankier, how much more self-sustainable the Muradin was compared to the others. Both main tanks on both teams were completely up their opponent's face. And whereas Muradin was able to hold his front line, Arthas got manhandled there by the backline of A-Team.
And right now, this soup needs to go back to the kitchen because it's got too much pepper. Raynor, even with isolation applied to him, was able to do so much work there in that fight, thanks to the clutch healing of Deckard Cain. The Lornado isolating Arthas. Yeah. We rarely see impactful Lornados, but that was huge. Separating Arthas out, giving Raynor time for the isolation to expire so he can continue to kite again. That was huge. Saint Ukov really being the patron saint of his team right now as Kaito sets up the trap. Are they going to try and contest this? Looks like not. Everyone else is pulling back.
All right, for now, though, Beyond the Game have stabilized. They haven't taken critical damage in either of their keeps yet. They're still standing, which is nice. And also in experience, the game is still dead even, because despite the A-Team and their most recent successes in those team fights, Beyond the Game was always able to use that global from Dahaka right at the get-go, you know, to get back into those lanes, double soak, get a little bit of extra soaking done, and, you know, deal with that experience gap that way. So these team fights are getting closer and closer. Wow. Okay.
That's, oh, Hanzo, please. Just
always a pleasure.
You gotta love Hanzo. As we see the A-Team hovering around their own Merc camp, Illidan starting to burn that down. Remember when Illidan used to be the pinnacle of Merc taking skill? As they're forced to back up because they don't take the Merc camp in more than a second, as Hanzo takes it in less than a second.
And I want Beyond the Game to actually utilize this momentum, right? They stole 2 mercenary camps, so there's 2 ways to deal with it now. The risky one, you start a boss and force a fight this way. You don't even have to commit to it, but you want to distract the enemy team so they can't even deal with that mercenary camp push. Or you're reinforcing the mercenary camp push and try to go for a fight. But I think you can really see the respect and the fear of Beyond the Game of another all-out team fight, because the last 2 they fought, they weren't necessarily going in their favor.
Yeah, the positioning from the A-Team really shut them down. Kaito being the ward here. He now knows that the enemy team is wrapping around from above, so once again, another camp's having to be abandoned? This is kind of strange. It's the thing oh, I like this. They don't even finish it off. Yeah. They pull it here, they drop it low, and just hover around. They're going to try and zone them away, because BTG, they 100% know that they are Rumbles here. That is a lovely move. Pull the camp away so that it can't kill them. They know they can tank it. They don't kill it, so BTG can't kill it and steal it. If they have to move in, they're going to move into a rough choke point, which is absolutely Hyperionable. That's a word. Get over it. But it's really nice positioning. They were able to do exactly what they should have done to force the disengage from BTG without putting themselves in danger.
Advanced mercenary tactics, you know, that's exactly how you do it. You keep the enemy at bay, you make them waste time, and you don't give another free objective over to your opponents. And now they actually have a massive experience lead. Not a massive one, but a significant one. So they can play the time game, they can stall it out a little bit longer, And with 2 temples now available, this is actually pretty okay for Beyond the Game because they don't necessarily have to fight into level 20 right now. And they can get more experience themselves by taking them towers down.
The A-Team seem pretty happy with that, though. They're just going to trade out the temples. They know their keeps will take damage, but they're going to hit level 20 from this. They are more than happy for BTG. You can see their split soak with Dahaka.
Yeah, it really pays off. It really pays off. The towers in the middle lane are falling, adding additional experience to the counter. However, they're going to lose a keep, whereas A-Team doesn't, I believe, because the middle lane was still looking mighty healthy. So bottom lane goes down, which is the most impactful one as well with that boss in play. So already a big victory in terms of trading structures on the side of A-Team.
2 heroes that aren't in this bot lane, Dahaka and Reyna, and Illidan, sorry, both the globals. When's Dahaka tunneling in? How long is he willing to wait? Here comes the Water Elemental. It is a Wintermute one. 619 is the target. Dahaka's beginning to tunnel in. Illidan being very patient with his. Now he knows, though. He immediately hunts onto the Hanzo in the backline and dashes back. Lornado, not great this time, but Kaito is still tanking forwards. Gets a little bit of anti-armor from the Dahaka, but still tanks through all of this pressure.
Yeah, so much focus being put onto Muradin there, who tanks through it like an absolute boss. No problem here. They end up getting the last final temple shots from the bottom temple as well. Well, a lot of cooldowns used, but no real result achieved for either of the teams. Let's see what is still left. Ardent Defender, actually the only heroic ability currently left for the A-Team, whereas we still have the Hanzo Dragon's Arrow and the Isolation on Dahaka.
And it's upgraded versions as well. It's Play of the Game and Contagion coming in here. Lornado's already back off cooldown, though, because it's the upgraded Lornado. So really good there. So it's 2 for 2. It's 2 engaged tools versus 2 disengaged tools. So the A-Team, they decide that, well, let's just not. And go straight back to laning. They're hovering around the boss, making sure that's not being stolen.
Illidan, by the way, now being a 100% global hero with that upgraded hunt. He can now choose to jump and pounce on his targets from all across the globe.
Boss being started. Kaito needs to somehow scout this, because it's taking so quick with Hanzo on the board. They might just have to give that away. Kaito leaps over. He knows it's happening. Where's that Lornado? Jada and Illidan on the point. They hold it together. Lornado comes through, pushes Dahaka off the point. The boss is stolen away again. The beautiful isolation, though, is completely shutting down the rest of the team. Muradin is taken out. Jada is in full retreat right now. That contagion was brutal onto that Muradin, but the boss still taken.
Absolutely amazing play there by St. Ukov with a legendary Lornado, as you said. However, no value being gained. This boss is probably going to get shut down thanks to Hanzo and Jaina PvE damage before it even reaches the core. The keep is already dead, so this is actually an empty boss. They can't even ignore it right now. The core is going to deal with it one way or the other. No temples available. Only now does the countdown start. So 30 seconds, Tetcher. That's longer than the activation timer on the temple. This could actually be a win for Beyond the Game.
It's pretty close, though. It's pretty close. It's only going to be like 5-second difference here, as we do just need to see everyone not die. This keep was going to die. Into the roof. Very dangerous. He uses his friend or foe to get himself out of danger. Dahaka in top lane, clearing out the minion wave that's pushed up there. Muradin will be back 5 seconds after the temple spawn. This is a reaction. This is a absolutely doable defense. They will probably lose another keep, the A-Team, because they're going to take double shots onto top. But this is doable. This is defendable in terms of the core.
In terms of the core, that is true, and already you can see Dahaka falling back. He does not want to get caught now by an Illidan Hunt, for example, by the Irel, who has also a massive amount of lockdown as well. And it looks like if they trade the temples, I think it's actually a slight advantage for Beyond the Game. The top keep is still looking fine for them. I mean, not for long, though, but it's still healthier, so...
It's going to die, but like you said, there's going to be shots onto bot lane. And this is why that boss was so important. If the A-Team had lost that boss, that bot keep would be dead. Because that boss would have pushed in. Yeah, they would have cleared it up, but the front structures would have gone down. Instead, look at this. The keep takes barely any damage because the front structures actually blocked the majority of the spots. These are the things the boss would have managed to kill off. As we see them pushing in with a bruiser cap. Illidan, he can hunt in when he is required.
We're going to see an Illidan core call here. They need to be aware of this.
Maybe. It'd be 5v5. It'd be potentially the riskiest core call we've ever seen in HC China. They're hunting in. The mid keep goes down. It's all 3 keeps going down. They could try and slow play this. This could just be a bait, but they need to live in order for it to be a slow play. Pulling back, remember, Contagion. It's always on the board. LLK looks for his angle. He gets it. Gets a double
Contagion.
Silence. Kaito with an incredible delay, though. Absorption on Yarel is getting no value. Everyone with the patience to not attack. LLK chases forward. Kaito is the delay tactics right now, buying his team some time as Illidan comes back in here. They're just going to have to give up Kaitu. That's a double kill acquired here. That was a disastrous call by the A-Team.
I don't even know. They weren't even forced for this, right? They were actually the ones still in an advantage. They had the bottom keep still.
Illidan has to go for core. Illidan has to go for core now.
Yeah.
They can't 3 versus 5 for the core. Olele's gonna die. Bruiser, go across the map. Find some. You have vision in bot lane. He doesn't have hunt though. He can't.
This is a disaster. 3 people dead, 57 seconds still for Stukov. I think beyond the game, they're smelling victory here. They're trying to go for the core. No frontline to slow them down. No crowd control here either to stall it out. Dancing is probably going to play the sacrificial lamp here. Doesn't even end up falling though. The core goes down 3 a little bit low, but beyond the game, they have defended themselves against the onslaught of the Illidan, and they take this game in pretty convincing fashion towards the end, but also a huge misplay, in my opinion, by the A-Team Tetcher.
I completely agree. I think that call was unnecessary. They got mid-keep anyway. They could have absolutely slow-played that. Moved in, pretended to go in. You don't even have to hunt. Move it a little bit, and then back up. That's still 3 keeps down. That's still defendable. That's still taking a fight of your choice instead of hunting the Arthas and getting turned on by Dahaka.
Exactly. LLK with a 3-man contagion there. He spread mayhem and chaos in that team fight. And from there on out, it was a low HP Irel. He wasn't able to protect herself as well as she could have otherwise because of that silence. And there was several ways for the A-Team to actually play this out until the end with a massive advantage, right? As you said, they could have retreated. They still had to keep up in the bottom. They were structurally ahead to their opponents. So with 2 temples getting activated next, they could have just waited and split it out in the case of an emergency. Or they could have, like, if they really wanted to commit to this attack, they needed to go for the core with Illidan distracting the enemy team, splitting it at half, and then maybe you could have overpowered your opponents or taken the core altogether. But the way they made it happen, with a full-out team fight in the middle of the base, not even near the core, it just didn't work out.
I don't know what to say. That was an unnecessary risk, and they got punished for it. That's all I can say on that one. Unfortunate, but it happens. As such, that is going to be game number 2 going over to BTG. And the A-Team, unless they can pull off the reverse sweep, this looks like it might be the end of the Cinderella story, as it were. It's currently 10 to midnight. The clock is beginning to chime. I don't know why it's timing at 10 to midnight. It's a broken clock. Slippers on the stairs, and right now, a situation of can they get out without being seen?
The A-Team truck, it's running low on gasoline, but it's not stopped yet. It still has a little bit of life in it. So maybe if the A-Team, you know, if they sit together, if they analyze their mistakes from the last 2 games, the draft already seemed to look much better. They had some sick, astounding plays as well, especially when it came to dominating the boss areas. Saint Ukov, man, with those Lornados. Wonderful tanking by Kaitu as well on that Muradin.
There were so many good plays. The fights and positionings were gorgeous. Yes. It's everything else that was the... Well, not everything else. It was the calls, the shot calling of... Like, the boss calls, when to fight, how they fought was great. The core call and the rotation speed, I think, are the 2 things that were lacking. Like, the core call, we obviously saw that was a mistake. The rotation speeds for the A-Teams actually seemed a little bit slower.
It is. So the A-Team, can they actually regroup and rally and keep the dream alive? Or is Beyond the Game going to be the merciless bouncer that doesn't let you go into the club of, you know, the top 4 that goes to the cool location, the Eastern Clash? We're going to see that. And I think it already has shown us that regardless of the outcome of this series, right, whether Beyond the Game closes it out in a 3-0 or A-Team comes back and he might even win the whole thing, it's safe to say that the A-Team with that last performance is very close to becoming a serious contender for the top 4 rings in China if they continue to play like that, right? There's so much more room for this team to improve on. They have done so much already to get better as a team. And Beyond the Game, I'm not sure if with that sloppy early mid-game performance, they will stand a chance against CE, who are waiting next already in the pipeline.
I think you might be right. The CE currently in... No, it's SPT next. Wait, is it SPT or is
no,
it
it's CE next. CE.
Oh, yeah, it is, because SPT did finish like an extra 4 points ahead or something absurd. All right, so yeah, BTG versus CE, unless CE have suddenly become shaky again, which does happen like a lot to them, then I agree. I don't think either of these teams could take the game against them.
Like they do maybe have Zeren, though. The new coach seems to have reinvigorated them.
Possibly. So yeah, I don't think right now. I don't think either of these teams could take a series versus CE. Maybe a map, maybe two, if they're very lucky.
I think so too. And already, of course, for you guys out there that have a question or two about the upcoming schedule, the winner of this match is going to face CE today in another best of 5.
Oh,
sorry, what was that?
I got a lag.
Okay. Let's see.
I will quickly pause back down to you. Are you still at like 7-ish?
Still 6.2, yeah.
Okay, 6.2. You were 7 earlier.
Sped up a little bit.